heading down to Tribeca, which is maybe like an hour away. So I'm gonna have like 2 hours on the train. So I figured it's perfect time to start The Two Towers. And I have the audio book as well. I've got 2 sets of headphones in case one dies. I've got a backup battery, and I've got the physical copy, of course, to bring with me.
Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of the second volume in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Two Towers, by J.R.R. Tolkien, narrated by Robert Inglis. This book is copyrighted 1955 and 1965 by J.R.R. Tolkien. And now, The Two Towers.
Book 3, Chapter 1. The Departure.
Hello and welcome to today's reading vlog. It is the next day and I just wanted to sit down, formally introduce today's video in which I will be reading The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. I will do my best to avoid any spoilers whatsoever, so if that comes up, I'll make sure to mark it clearly and timestamp and all that fun stuff. But this is more just to document my own personal and emotional journey as I'm reading through these books for the first time, and less about reiterating the plot. I generally don't even like to discuss plot in my videos as much as I can avoid it, so I do prefer to talk about themes and characters and writing style. I have watched the movies many times growing up, and I did read The Hobbit in high school. But this year I decided it was high time for me to read the written works that have inspired so many of my own personal favorite stories. I read The Fellowship of the Ring a little over a month ago. If in case you missed that vlog, I will pop that up here somewhere. I'm super excited to continue on in this journey. Aside from The Two Towers, I am currently in the middle of a few different books. Something I was getting a little bit better at, but I've somehow now gotten back up to like, I don't know, 4 or 5 books right now. But the focus really is going to be on The Lord of the Rings, so I probably won't mention or discuss those books too much. Like I said, I'll be putting some timestamps in case you want to jump around in the video. Other than that, I hope you enjoy the video. I have finished everything that I wanted to get done. I am now in my pajamas and ready to kind of settle in for a bit of reading. Got a workout in. I went to the park, did a full body calisthenics workout, and it was absolutely beautiful out. I'm so glad I got outside for a workout. I got some meal prep done and I got some studying done. That was like the main focus of my day today, was studying on my laptop. A lot of sitting down today, and we're going to sit down some more. I am trying to create good reading conditions here, so I'm trying to enable myself to sit for a little bit longer and not get up every 5 minutes. In order for me to actually like try to focus on reading for a little bit longer duration, I have gotten all my beverages. I've got a mint tea, I've got my water, I've got Crunchy Pops from Trader Joe's, and I'm putting some Rohan music ambiance on the TV. We'll see how that one is. Some of these are a little too like dramatic for me to be reading sometimes, and then sometimes it's too sleepy. So I have not quite figured out like the perfect reading ambiance to put on in the background. I have a lot of good like working ambiance videos that I use, but if anyone has any recommendations for what they put on in the background while they're reading, I do like it to be on theme if it can. Ultimately, like I just need something that's not going to put me to sleep. I think I have like an hour until I need to start getting dinner and getting ready for bed. So I'm going to read for an hour, and then I'm probably going to go read some more in bed after, because I usually read for at least like 30 minutes once I'm in bed. So should be able to get a fair amount of reading done. I am currently at 6% on the e-reader, but this one is kind of weird because it actually starts at where the first book left off. The pages start at like 410 or something like that, and I think I'm on 418 or something. I haven't gotten too far, but I'd like to get to at least 20% or more for sure.
The three companions now left the hilltop, where they might be an easy mark against the pales.
Them. It was in forgotten years long ago that Eol the Young brought them out of the north, and their kinship is rather with the Bardings of Dale, and with the Beornings of the wood, among whom may still...
The sun was already westering as they rolled from Eberron, and the light of it was in their eyes, turning all the rolling fields of Rohan into a golden haze. There was a beaten west, northwestward along the foothills of the White Mountains, and this they followed, up and down in the green country, crossing small, swift streams by many falls. Moon, they now made their bivouac, like shadows in the folds of the land. The slow night passed, at dawn the horn sounded, and within an hour they took their own way. There were no clouds overhead yet, but a heaviness was in the air. It was hot for the season, but it must have been pretty hot. Tell me, can you see anything away yonder to the rising yard? Many miles lie between.
It has been many days since we last spoke, so we've got quite a bit to catch up on. I did not, in fact, get to 25 or even 20% the last time I checked in that night. I only got to 18%, and I realized this is just going to take me a bit longer to read than I thought, which tends to be the case in general almost all the time. The rest of that week I pivoted to finish the two other books that I was in the middle of, which were Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage, a contemporary cowboy romance that I ended up giving 3 stars, and The Emperor's Soul, a standalone fantasy novella by Brandon Sanderson, which I gave 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It had really great characters, a really fascinating magic system and some philosophical commentary on art that I really appreciated. So I would highly recommend that one. It was so short and so all encompassing of everything that I want in a story. Definitely to my taste. So that was great. I then felt like I had a little more momentum. I was continuing to read The Two Towers at night before bed and eventually got to like the 25% mark going into this past weekend. I'd say overall so far the pacing has been much snappier than Fellowship of the Ring and just generally more enjoyable. And I'd say I had the similar experience with the movies as well. The Two Towers in movie format was definitely better pacing compared to the other Fellowship and Return of the King, from what I remember. I really enjoyed Merry and Pippin's chapters as well. We had a scene with the orcs that I think gave a lot more depth to them as characters and as a race, I guess, that got a bit skimmed over in the movies. And then going into this weekend, I was getting to the chapters in Rohan, which might be my favorite chapters so far. I really love the people and characters that we meet in Rohan. They're so like noble, and I also love that they have horses as such a strong part of their culture. I don't know, maybe that's like the inner horse girl in me. Saturday night, I picked up a new to me video game called Chivalry 2. It is actually probably my partner's favorite video game. He was teaching me how to basically sword fight. You can use all kinds of different medieval style weapons, but we were practicing with a longsword and felt like it was very on theme to be learning how to fight with a sword while I was also kind of amidst the sword fighting and battle scenes of Lord of the Rings. Felt very fitting. And then Sunday I had so many house projects that we were working on, so I did listen to the audio for quite some time. We got some art put up on the wall, which was really satisfying. I also was buffing out some of the water rings on our vintage chest that we use as a coffee table, and it actually worked way better than I thought. This is the first time I did this, but it was such a workout. But that got me through the first battle scene in Lord of the Rings, and it was really chaotic to listen to. Just having trouble visualizing what was happening. It just was not really playing out very clearly in my head. So I kind of was relying on my memories of the movie to kind of stand in for those scenes, even though it's definitely not one for one. There's definitely some differences in the battle in the book versus the movie. But that brought me to about 43%. We also haven't seen any Frodo and Sam yet, which is interesting because they are arguably the main characters of the story. But it looks like the whole second half is going to be all Frodo and Sam. Those were not my favorite parts in the movie. They actually stressed me out a lot. Smeagol stresses me out a lot. But I don't know, we'll see how it goes in the book. Hopefully it'll be more engaging and less stressful. Okay, I have made some progress. I think I'm about 70% in now, and I will say I really loved the like 25 to 55% portion of this book. I think that's been my favorite out of this whole journey so far. I've had a lot of little notes that I've been keeping, so a couple thoughts. The vocab in this book is insane. I love how many, I didn't know how many words there were to describe valleys and rivers and streams. I've been keeping track. I have a little list in my notes app of all the words that I've come across. And that's one thing that I've really been liking about using the e-reader is that I can just search the dictionary or search the word and it gives me the little dictionary definition, which has been really handy. Instead of me just kind of like skimming over and like assuming what something means, I'm actually getting a little bit more of a sense of what the landscape actually looks like because there's a surprising number of words that I did not know. Another thought I keep having over and over again is how impressed I am with the similarities that I am remembering from the movies. Like dialogue and the characters in particular are pretty close from book to movie. Again, from what I remember, I'm like surprised at how true to the book everything was kept. Of course, I'm just so excited to watch the movie again and once I finish reading this because it's been so long. So I am currently on the Frodo Sam chapters and their dynamic, particularly now with Smeagol, is really interesting. I really get frustrated reading about Smeagol, but he is crucial. He is crucial to the story. And I think the more I'm reading it, the more I'm realizing how crucial he is to the character development of both Frodo and Sam. Even if I wish sometimes that he would just leave. I have literally like less than 2 hours left on the ebook and the audiobook because I have those both through Libby. So they are going to return at around 3 o'clock this afternoon. Then I will be switching back over to the physical book to finish out for the remainder of the Two Towers. I'm going to start a puzzle now and do a little more audiobooking and maybe switch back to the ebook. Honestly, the ebook has been my favorite so far. I think I'm gonna audiobook with the ebook nearby so that I can annotate and highlight and check word definitions as needed. I'm gonna break out a rainbow puzzle because it is almost June, so might as well get the Rainbow Pride started a little early. That's my update. I'm gonna listen puzzle on this very overcast spring day. We've had so much rain. I think it's good though. It seems like the plants are thriving. Okay, one thing that I wanted to call out is that I never thought about this when I was watching the movies, but there's almost like elements of horror writing in this, especially when describing like the dead city and anytime the Nazguls are seen or heard. It definitely has this like element of dread that I've only ever seen in stories that center horror. I kind of like that crossover of like the fantasy horror in general. I never realized that is such a big part of Lord of the Rings, and maybe that's part of why I like the Two Towers specifically because of these more horror leaning scenes. It helps make the stakes feel bigger and gives you that sense of dread that the characters must be feeling, like that sense of impending unknown. I think the enemies are left at a distance enough that it lets your imagination kind of take over a little bit, have a stronger sense of foreboding, as opposed to if we had seen the enemy up close. Like when we see Saruman up close, I almost find him a little bit cartoony as a villain versus Sauron and his minions feel a little bit more serious, a little more something to be feared. All right, I think unfortunately this is probably the best lighting we're going to get right now, but I did finish The Two Towers and I really enjoyed this one. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts. Basically, I'm comparing it a lot with Fellowship because, of course, it's like the second in the same series, and there's really not a lot of other books that I can truly compare to this that I've read. What I'll say is with Fellowship, I felt like I was kind of pulling teeth to get through it a little bit. I was just watching a video by Josh Reed's Books, and he mentioned for the series, he was referring to another series. He was saying how he appreciated the series, but he didn't enjoy it. And I feel like that was absolutely my experience with Fellowship. I appreciated it. I gave it 5 stars at the time. I have since gone back and just changed it to 4.25. I appreciate a lot of elements in the writing. It's also hard for me to kind of disentangle it from my experience watching the movies, which I have loved so long. So from a reading experience standpoint, I just had a hard time picking it up. I had a hard time getting through it. Had trouble getting invested. Something changed in Two Towers, whether that is just having had more time with the characters or if it's just the pacing and the plotting and the stakes getting higher. I really enjoyed this. I felt like I wanted to keep picking it up. I wanted to keep learning more. I wanted to keep seeing what was going to happen next, even though I kind of knew it was going to happen because I've seen the movies. I actually enjoyed picking this up and reading it. I still can't say it was like, oh my God, I was chomping at the bit. Like, it's not a favorite, but I did enjoy it a lot more. And I think for that reason, I also appreciated it a lot more. I found myself highlighting and taking lots of notes. I think this was a good reset for me to kind of take stock in what I'm looking for in fantasy writing. I'm really glad that I took the time this year to go back to one of the classics in the genre to kind of set the tone for my future reading, because this had a lot of elements that I really liked, not only in the descriptive writing and the vocabulary and the character development, but also the domesticity, where you have a lot of these domestic moments, particularly around food. Eating is such a big part of the camaraderie, and it's such an anchor for these characters, and it felt like it gave the story more grounding as well. So as the stakes kept getting higher, but we still had some of these moments of groundedness with shared meals at a table. But yeah, I really appreciated the more day-to-day elements that were put in here to balance the drama, I guess. I'd say that the plotting was absolutely perfect. Like, this is my ideal, sorry, not plotting, pacing. I'd say the pacing is like my ideal pacing, like not too fast, not too slow. The themes were maybe not as strong as Fellowship, whereas Fellowship, there was a really big emphasis on friendship. I think that took a little bit of a backseat in this one. And there was, I would say, a theme about hastiness. Like, I saw Tolkien use the word haste many, many times throughout this installment. At first, I thought he was basically saying that you don't want to be hasty ever, but that wasn't always the case. There were a couple chapters and a couple cases where where characters were calling for haste and calling for urgency. He was more saying to use haste when needed, but also know when to slow down. There's also like a strong morality element in these books where you have a very clear black and white, good or evil. That is something that I don't necessarily, I like it, I don't love it. With Smeagol, I find him particularly frustrating because he embodies both those dualities and never the two seem to meet. No nuance in between. So I guess that's a little bit of a nitpick, but not a deal breaker for me. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on the themes and what your thoughts are on these books overall if you've read them. If you haven't read them, I hope that this maybe inspired you to pick it up. If you have, then I hope this was entertaining for you. You can leave me a sword emoji in the comments to let me know you made it this far, or any other thoughts that you might have about the books. I'd love to know what your thoughts were on the themes in particular, if you picked up on any other themes in the book that I maybe didn't mention. Thank you so much if you did make it this far. I will see you in another video. Bye!